How have you seen the music industry change, G-Fresh, since you started as an artist?
Some of the barriers to entry have been reduced. There's more money, there's more attention.
There must be a lot of fake type artists out there that put out fake narratives.
This is going to be a mad thing to say. People literally lie on Instagram all day long and build businesses. I mean, all these most online businesses by these individuals, whether it's we do drop shipping, we do trading, we do this, it's just a lie.
If you listen to rap, urban music and hip hop, this episode is something you need to listen to. My next podcast guest is a man called G-Fresh, who's gone from the mic now behind the scenes as the business person. Be happy, never content, and make sure you are subscribing. Before we start this week's podcast, I have to give a special mention to our sponsors. iSecure Vehicles. They are a brilliant company, a family-run business, and they specialise in vehicle safety and security throughout the UK. I know this company very well, and I also know the people behind the brand. If you've been following me on my podcast journey and on social media, you will know that I love cars and so does my network. This is why I'm very, very excited to be working with iSecure Vehicles, and this is why we have chosen them to be our sponsors for the Stephen Sully Study podcast. Their team are professionals, experts, and they're efficient. Once their product is installed on your car, your vehicles, you will have the peace of mind that your asset is protected. Trust me, do not wait until it's too late. Get protection now. For more information about their products, including dash cameras, undetected immobilizers, and also car tracking systems, head over to isecure-vehicles.co.uk and remember to mention the Stephen Sully Study podcast sent you. Right, welcome back to the podcast, Stephen Sully Study, here at my second home, Woodbury House, private art gallery in Mayfair. This man, I've been admiring this man for many, many years, predominantly because of your music, and then I got to know you via Dummy at a successful event that we had here, Severance, the launch of their sparkling British-made wine, which is inspired. I'm not going to go into the brand right now, but it's inspired because of so many different things that Dummy was telling me about. Anyway, long story short, we finally made it happen. We're getting you on the podcast, so welcome onto the platform.
Thank you.
I always ask the guests this, walking through the gallery, seeing Richard Hamilton work, Black the Rat work, Defo, Retina, sort of your thing. What do you think about, does it resonate to you? What do you think about the gallery?
Oh no, I mean, it's beautiful, isn't it? And I love art. I feel like, I mean, this is mad to say here, but I feel like it shouldn't be as expensive. Like, I think it should be more accessible, if possible, and not just through like museums and blah, blah, blah. I think art should be enjoyed by everybody.
I agree with that. Yeah. It comes down to, I think, the originals anyway, supply and demand, right?
Yeah.
If someone is historically important, if someone has got a major skill set, if someone is affiliated to other great artists and you've got the right people around it, hence why the prices go up, and if you're in there early you can obviously do well financially, but to enjoy it, I do agree, people, it should be for everybody.
Yeah, I think it's one of those weird things where obviously all other forms of art are accessible by most. I think it's just hard to work out how to make this as accessible.
Yeah,
I think that's probably the issue more than anything else. But and I wonder why like a copy doesn't have the same effect as the original on a person.
Well, I guess a limited edition, they can do really well. If you look at Banksy, if you look at Basquiat, if you look at Warhol, Haring, etc., over time the originals become so expensive that the only choice that majority people have is buy limited editions, and then the same thing applies. They keep on buying, they go up, and then majority of people can't afford that, and they go to merchandise, which is the hats, the t-shirts, etc.
But I mean like the visceral effect of looking at one thing versus another. Why does that make a difference to us, do you think?
I don't think it is personally down to the way it looks. I think that has a big part, but I do think it's more about people's education, because then it shapes their taste buds. You could look at something. Look, there are going to be a lot of people that know you and love your work and understand what you do. There's going to be a new wave of people, hopefully from this podcast, that are going to get to know you and suddenly become fans. And that's because they've been exposed to the information on this podcast. And when you get exposed to the education behind an artist, canvas artist, street artist, that usually leads them to start to appreciate and adore their work. They become fans, collectors, and then they buy. I think if you just rely on looking at something, you're going to get one view. I think if you research it, you then start to open up other views.
Yeah, but I mean, say for example, you have this and a copy of this next to it, and I don't know which is which, right? But once you tell me one is then I'm like, but it's a bit like, I don't know, it's weird to me as to why. It's like, same as when I see like the whole NFT thing, and I'm like, but it's just a digital picture. Once anyone can have that digital picture, I don't get how it has any real value. But obviously original artwork does, and it does feel different looking at something that was done by the person in front of you.
Well, I'm trying to use an example. I used to be a plumber back in the day, believe it or not, and I worked at a place called Rutland Gate for the Prince of Bahrain's house. This place was massive back in the day. Bearing in mind I'm 37, so I'm talking about when I was 18 years of age. This place was 15 million quid back then. Wow. No, like today it must be worth silly amount of money over 3 different floors. And I remember in one particular room when they were renovating it, they were putting dry lining in, and that was kind of the wall. It was kind of very, very like kind of rubbish, to be honest. And to look at a dry lined wall versus a brick wall, which has all been, they both look the same, but the moment you touch it, one's tough, one's solid, and one's a bit echoey. And I guess it's the kind of same thing with original versus limited edition. I mean, look, they both look the same, but when you get up and close and personal with them, you can see which is the real authentic one, and one that is quite close, but not the real thing maybe. So don't think that's probably the best example, but it's the one that came to my mind initially. So off air, now on air, I wanted to talk to you about like how things have evolved and changed, because we're quite a similar age. You're almost 40 in September. 39 years of age right now. I'm 37. I'm going to be 38 later on this year. And I've been a fan, not an artist, but a fan of your work and some of your affiliates for a long time. But I have seen the change from like garage, grime, drill. There's loads of different like versions of like rap, I would call it, or hip hop and R&B. And I was saying earlier that I feel like now it's very, very high paced, which in some cases that's good, because a star can emerge, rise very quickly and become a megastar, like really, really quickly, thanks to social media and thanks to strategies and stuff. But equally, I feel like they can fall away very, very quickly at the same time. I wanted to get your version of that, and how have you seen the music industry change, GFresh, since you started as an artist?
So first of all, I'd say, I don't think it's something that's just unique to music. You'll probably see it in the art world too more than you did before. I think it's just the whole, Andy Warhol, was it 15 Minutes of Fame or whatever?
Yeah.
And I think nobody could foresee how that would happen, and that 15 minutes was relatively a long time when he said that, whereas now your 15 minutes probably can be 15 minutes. You can go viral. People will know who you are for 15 minutes and probably forget 15 minutes later. And I just think because we're in the age where we're fighting for people's attention more than ever. When we were young, there were 5 channels, then it gets to Sky and there's all these channels and cable, and then now you've got channels and streaming and social media platforms and everything else going on in your phone, that everyone's attention span is so short that it would be, there's always something new, essentially. So I think that shortens the lives of anybody that is in the limelight in general. So anybody who manages to maintain any sort of career for a long period of time is way more special than they ever were in the past. And also because back in the day, things were controlled more by the gatekeepers, mostly TV, radio, and press. And now entry to the music industry has been somewhat democratized because the gatekeepers are now the people. So before, when they could control what the people saw, then they could champion certain things for X amount of time and create that longevity in a career, whereas now no one's kind of in charge of that, and it's a Wild West and everybody's just fighting each other for attention. So yeah, the up and down thing is inevitable, and it probably exists in all forms of art or anywhere else. And how has the music industry changed from when we were there? As I said, it's been democratized. Some of the barriers to entry have been reduced. There's more money, there's more attention. The lines of genre and music have been blurred somewhat, whereas before, I think something like pop music meant a complete particular sound, whereas now pop is essentially the most popular music in whatever genre there is, right? And now I think there's a lot more attention's been spread by an act before probably had to be a super fan. No, sorry, a fan before had to be a super fan of an act in order to actually spend money on them. You had to really care about an artist to walk to the shop and buy that single. You had to care about an artist to download the song. Now I can be a passive listener a lot easier than before. And so I can be a fan of way more music in general because I'm getting more bang for my buck. Before, if people are spending $9.99 a month on Spotify, that's their music budget. So how much were they really going to spend on music? That means you're going to go and buy one album a month. So that gives you, essentially, even if you bought a new artist every month, you'd only really going through becoming a fan of 12 artists, right? Which is still a high number. Now I can listen to a plethora of acts and become a fan, a passive fan. I can still spend a little bit of money. And I think because of that, there's a bit more money across the board for everyone. There are still the megastars, but everyone's getting a little bit of the pie. And I think, and then just in general, hip hop music, urban black music in the UK has become more popular over time due to the work that people before me had done and we've contributed to, and so on and so forth.
You mentioned about the money, yeah, and I don't like. It's always been there, and it's always been like I used to listen to. Like I remember when 50 Cent and G-Unit came out, and I was such a massive fan, and they had. Ice on Ice. They had the guy. They had like customized stuff, and it was just mental. Like I was just like, wow. But it feels like now that like certainly in the UK, it's not like I interviewed two founders to a watch company in Mayfair called Kettle Kids. Yeah, Jacob and Harvey, really good guys. First podcast they ever done actually. Yeah. And I watched some of their YouTube channel, some of their rappers and music artists, footballers and people like that go into that store, and not only do they buy nice watches and get them iced out, but then they have customized jewelry, etc. And I feel like in today's world, it's on steroids. It's got like even stronger with like the kind of being creative with like jewelry and stuff like that. Do you think predominantly young men, I know females are involved as well, but predominantly young men, they get into this world of becoming a rapper, becoming a music artist, and maybe some of them, not all, but they're looking at it from the wrong point of view. They're not trying to do it to be a great artist. They want the fame, they want the bling, they want the money.
I think that's always been part of the motivation, to be honest with you. I think even when we were making music and there wasn't much money, we were still looking to the Americans. But granted, we did it with technically more of a passion because there wasn't really any guaranteed success. There was way less of a guarantee of success in our time rapping and all the rest of it. So, but was it a motivation? Definitely for someone like myself, it was still something I sought after. But then what it really boils down to essentially is you do learn quite quickly that you have to be passionate about your craft in order to be successful. So yes, will you be motivated by the rewards? Of course, but as long as that doesn't outweigh your passion for what you do, in most instances, I think you can be successful in anything. And I think, would I say that they lack that? I don't think so. I think if you look at some of the acts, Stormzy, who came up slightly before the time when there also wasn't, the blueprints he had were like the Dizzies, Tinys, and, you know, prior to that, So Solids and all the rest. But then I don't think his motivation at the time was like, obviously he foresaw what he's become, I'm assuming, but I don't think that was his driving force initially. And you've got the people like Dave who are clearly very passionate about their craft and take the time to be great, I'd say. So when you look at the best artists in most genres, not most genres, but in any genre, the best ones are the ones that actually take the craft very seriously, and whether that's the Drake, Coles, Kendricks, etc., in America. And then here, you know, the Daves, Storms is, I think they try and take their time to make great work. Yeah.
The one of the things I've been fascinated with, because it was almost when I was younger, I don't know if you can second this, but this is my take. The UK artist was almost a bit second to America. It was always like the Americans, like you had obviously back in the day, like Biggie, Tupac, and everyone was looking at that. And then the Eminems, obviously Dre before that, etc. And it was just like, we were cool, we were doing our thing. I remember there was, I said the name of the group to do me on the other podcast, it'll come back to me. It's Southman Syndicate, SMS. Yeah. And they were, I'm originally from Tulse Hill, so that's how I knew of them. And my cousin John, he's, you know, some of the people that was in that group was some of his friends. I think there was Snakes and people like that. And I remember listening to a few of their, I had tapes back in the day, and listening, and I was showing some of my mates who were like, I said, listen, this is actually far better than some of this stuff coming out from America, but it's just not exposed enough, so people don't even know this is out there. But now I really feel, and sorry, what I was going to get to is when you had an American with a British artist, rappers normally, it was almost like a wow moment. Like, how has that happened? How has that connection, that collaboration happened? But now it seems like it's happening more and more and more, and it's almost like the American artists almost need the UK artists. How true is that in some respects?
I don't even think it's necessarily a need. I think we've just put ourselves in a position where they can respect you. I think that's the thing. I think the American collab thing seems like a new thing, but it's definitely, as you said, happened way with time before. Like So Solid were doing songs with Rockefeller artists back in the day because they were so solid. It was like you couldn't deny who they were. And then and Dizzy, I think he had a song with Bun B.
Bun B's been on my podcast.
Yeah. I think he had a song with him. Tiny had songs with Americans. Like, once you put yourself in a position of respect, just like anything, then no one's gonna deny you. Like, it's just that if it's not worth their time, whether you're English or American, they don't care. They're not going to do some song with some local rapper unless the song's popping over there. And I think that's the same as here. If you're popping and it's worth my time, of course they're going to do it all day long. Why wouldn't you? Because the person, and now with stats all over the place, it's clear as day whether something's going to be worth your time or not. In most instances.
I remember hearing about Beyonce trying to reach out to Adele, you know, saying that she wants to work with, I mean, you know, that amazing. Obviously Ed Sheeran I remember listening to him doing beats for Wiley and doing the back end stuff and doing beatboxing and stuff like that, and playing his guitar in the subways or in the tube. And now it's like every single artist on the face of this fucking planet wants to be around that ginger kid because he's so good at what he does.
Yeah, and he's Ed Sheeran, innit? At the end of the day, unfortunately, even if he was as good as he is, still on the tube, they're not going to make a song with him. But because he's Ed Sheeran, they'll do that. Just like when they make songs with whatever rappers are here, because of who they are, and obviously they respect their artistry, but predominantly because it's beneficial to them.
I said off air, and I'm always fascinated with like the culture and the mindset of different like mega stars and iconic rappers and what is their next move. And I know it's been quite clear to see over the last few years, but someone like Drake, who I feel like has been so sustainable in what he does for a long, long time, a powerhouse and a massive influence, and his rise to stardom and the money, and it's just been very, very inspiring. But I watched old interviews with him, and he was talking about like Skepta and Wiley and people like this back in the day, and it was almost like, how did he have the foresight to know that, you know, these people from the UK were going to be such a big influence in what we do, and then he was going to circle back. And I liked it when he joined forces with the Section Boys and was doing some tunes with more singing their own tunes, and it's great to see. But why do you think like someone like him who's been there, done it, and he's made all the money, he's got all the accolades and success, why is he coming down to the people at the very, very beginning again and trying to align himself with them?
I think first and foremost, it starts with what we were saying. I don't think he's someone that was necessarily driven predominantly by the money. He was driven by a passion for the music. So he's essentially a student of the game, which has then made him pretty much a unicorn, because to stay at the top for as long as he has, no one's managed to do before. But first and foremost, he's a fan. There's actually a big connection between the Canadian music culture and the UK scene that's always been there. So a lot of artists back in the day would get I would have fans in Canada. People like K Coke, I think, would then go and do shows in places like Toronto and so on and so forth. So they're in general, they're more well-versed in UK music than Americans are. So for Drake, it was probably, he's of that age, it was natural for him to be aware of all of these people as he was growing up. It would just be normal, do you know what I mean? So I don't think he necessarily had to predict who was who. He liked who he liked, just as a lot of people liked those people at the time. And then for him to circle back, once again, is predominantly led by the fact that he's a fan of the music and he's a fan of the culture. And then secondly, because it helps in his quest to remain this unicorn by using cultural capital in places where it lies, and the UK is one of them. So it makes sense when he aligns himself with stuff that we do here, because it also keeps him relevant and keeps him young. I always there's that thing where, it's a weird thing sometimes where men like somebody who's younger than them, because you spend less time looking in the mirror than you spend looking at that person. So when you look at that person, it's that whole, it makes you feel young, right? So with Drake, especially when he stands next to these kids who are technically now kids to him, he doesn't look like some weird OG. He just doesn't seem to age in our culture because he's standing next to youth as well.
I was listening to his Find the Booth, Charlie Sloth, on the weekend, and I feel like he puts his hand to anything, singing, rapping, and he pulls it off. It's amazing.
And that's because he's passionate about it and loves it. I think that's the reality of it.
Yeah. You've been in the music scene, obviously. Do I call you a former artist and now you're more of a businessman behind the scenes?
Yeah, I'm a former artist.
Okay.
I don't think I would record ever again. Weirdly enough, it's like I like making music, and But I hated being in the studio, to be honest. It just
really that
boring.
surprises me.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that. Got his name now recently.
Central C.
That's it, Central C. And there's obviously a lot of noise and a lot of hype and energy surrounding not just that, but so many other young blooded stars that are coming through. You being in that industry, you being a talented rapper yourself, and obviously understanding the different genres and the landscape. Who would you say we should look out for in the near future? Let's say 6-12 months from now. Who's going to come through? Who's going to surprise everybody?
There's a kid who I'm a big fan of, and he's called Zakar. But I'm a bit biased because we just signed him at UTA. This is going to be a mad thing to say, because as you get older, your taste naturally changes, and I suppose it gets harder for you to tell who's going to be big or not, because you can't put you have to put yourself into the mind of a 14 to 24-year-old or 14 to 17-year-old kid who's going to actually dictate, okay, this is the guy, right? Because lyrically it becomes harder to relate to young rappers as you're older, because they're not talking about things that you necessarily care that much about anymore, or they can't teach you anything. Because when we were young and I was listening to the Jay-Z's and the Nas's and so on and so forth, it felt like they were teaching you life, right? But unfortunately there's probably not that much that a early 20-year-old rapper is going to teach me, so I don't listen to them necessarily on that level, right? But I have got into this, I think maybe being behind the scenes now and on the other side, I like what I like, but when it comes to predicting and finding talent that you attach yourself to, it becomes more about what everybody else likes, what the audience is deciding to choose. So could I say, okay, this person's going to be big because lots of people like this person already? That's easy. But is there a person that I'm like, I love this guy and they're going to be massive? I don't think there's anyone at this point in time that isn't doing well already that I would say I could pick out at this point.
I've listened to Charlie Sloth, Find the Booth, talk about, obviously, you know, he's been there and done it with a lot of artists, and he's seen them, the raw version of them, you know, not preparing, just getting in that booth and going at it. And he's actually said on other podcasts that some big names that you think are going to be absolute dynamite are whack, and he won't even put out their stuff. And then there's other people that really just surprise you, and they come out with this flow and they've got this energy and aura about them. Is there anybody, I'm not asking you to name any names unless you want to, like you know, you looked at an artist and they've just not been what they're hyped up to be?
I think it's all dependent on taste, but really and truly, I think there's different metrics to measure someone's artistry by, and some of those metrics result in financial rewards, and some of them don't. They just give you clout and a bit of kudos. So it depends what you choose, which artist you choose to be. Like, some people have managed to do both. You know, like Drake has managed to do both. Dave at this point in time, the Centrals, the DBEs, a lot of people have managed to have real clout and a credit and then be financially successful, right? But at a time, probably when Charlie's talking about, you could go in the fire booth and rap your arse off, that's up to you. But whether that translated into money was a whole different story. So do you want to be good at just going into a studio and killing a freestyle, or do you want to be good at writing songs and performing and giving good interviews and all the rest of it? you choose which one makes you shit or whatever. It's not up to really me to decide, you know what I mean? It's just, who do you want to be? So I think that's more of what it boils down to. I mean, there's a lot of massive people on massive stages with massive songs that couldn't go and kill a fire in a booth, but they couldn't give a fuck either about it. Do you know what I mean? And then there's all the people that could kill a fire in a booth, but you're just rapping to your friends down the phone. So to you.
So this leads on to my next question then. Like, I guess it's like everything. Footballers, boxers, not so much business people, I don't think, but more like, yeah, like, I guess music stars, like, people got the absolute skill, but they just don't get through. Like, you look at, like, I've got mates who are incredible footballers. They were once upon a time professional, but they never quite got through it. And you're thinking, you're better than some of these footballers that I know in these teams. These rappers are better than some of the people who are standing on the stage in Glastonbury, you know, selling out arenas and stuff. Why does some of the artists who appear to be very skillful and look the part just don't make it and don't get through?
I think it's anything in life. You choose the path you want to walk first and foremost. I think most of the time, in any failure, I think you should look at yourself first.
Agreed.
That's the reality of it, and then you can look at everything else. I think luck plays a massive part in anyone's success too, being there at the right place, right time, etc. But predominantly, it's who do you want to be. Like, even when I talk about the freestyle versus like the song maker thing, it's like a Khabib and Conor. Like, Khabib is a very skilled, dedicated fighter, right? Conor's a great fighter too, but Conor knew, okay, I'm gonna walk this path and because I want the money, right? And
build the brand
and understand the job from a different perspective, yeah. Because and Khabib understands the job, he just doesn't want to do it like that, and that's fine too. Now, are both of them happy? Yes, but if you were a Khabib that wants the Conor money, then you gotta do the job. And if you're the Conor who wants the Khabib legacy, then you gotta kind of do it that way too, right? So with musicians, I'd say, let me take myself for example. I say the blame lies at my door when it comes to not being as big as other people, because I chose to be a complicated rapper. Do you understand? And then obviously the scene wasn't as big at the time and blah, blah, blah. In today's day and age, you could be a complicated rapper or a kind of different rapper and still be successful. Someone like Nux is a demonstration of that. He's kind of walks his own lane, but still managed to make a career, make money, and so on and so forth. In our time, that wasn't really an option, right? You just had to try and get on the radio. I chose not to try that hard. Well, I did try to get on the radio, I suppose, but still, I don't think I executed it perfectly. I think I explained it to someone as, when I would rap, I was like rapping to the VIP section instead of rapping to the rest of the club.
Right. And
then thinking about all the other people outside that can't even get in the club. And so when you're a rapper or especially a musician or something, essentially you're a public speaker, right? You're trying to get your point across in 3.5 minutes as memorable as possible and deliver your message in a concise and clear way as possible. So when you do that as a very complicated rapper, that's probably not the best way to make music, right? So whoever understood how to get the balance between showing some level of skill and still being able to get your message across and, you know, in a hit song did well. So, but that's for me what it kind of boils down to. You can be great, but technically are you that good? If you're a neuro scientist, right, and you're trying to teach me about something I don't understand, you speaking in a bunch of medical jargon makes you a bad teacher when you're teaching me. and then the teacher that can teach it to me in the most simple way possible is technically a better teacher, even though you may be cleverer. Do you know what I mean? And that's it. You can be as good as you want. If you don't know how to get your message across, then you're technically kind of rubbish. So I sometimes say, you know what, I was sick. People go, you were sick, you were ahead of your time, and da-da-da-da. I was like, yeah, I was, but technically I was kind of rubbish at not doing the job at hand for what I wanted from the job, because I did want some sort of financial reward at the time from rapping.
Guys, I wanted to hop on here to once again thank the sponsors of this week's podcast, iSecure Vehicles. When we were searching around for sponsors for the channel, we honestly wanted to get a brand, a company that will give massive amount of value to our audience, and that is definitely iSecure Vehicles. They have a wide range of products which are designed to keep your vehicle, your asset, safe and secure. Some of those products are dash cameras, undetected immobilizers, and car tracking systems. Head over to iSecure to look at their products and make sure you say that the Stephen Sully Study podcast sent you there. You mentioned your message, yeah, and this is a part of a conversation that again I had with Dumi, and I've only had it with a few people, and it's actually a bit of a tough subject for me to raise, because on one side of it, I love it, and it gets me. I box, as you can see, and before I go down to boxing gym or whilst I'm boxing and sparring, I need to be revved up. I'm not listening to Miley Cyrus whilst I'm boxing. I'm listening to something hardcore to get me going. But there is an element where some of the messages might actually be being lived a bit too much in real life, and it's turning into other bad stuff behind the scenes, if that makes sense. What I'm trying to say is this: look, I've been listening to rap all my life, well, ever since I could listen to music, and the Biggies, the Bun B's, the Tupacs, the 50 Cents, the Eminems, they all talk about certain scenarios. I mean, 50 Cent obviously was shot 9 times or whatever it was, and they talk about the lifestyle that they once lived in, or the lifestyle that they're currently living in. So my question to you is this: like, is that a problem a little bit, because it kind of feels like maybe some anger, tension within gangs or groups to kind of go out there and commit certain crimes or live a certain life, but at the same time, if you pulled that away from them, the music wouldn't be good, because there's no feeling, there's no emotion. So like, I don't even know what the question is, but this is a mad paradox where...
Does it have an effect? Most definitely.
And are you seeing it as someone, a producer, a former artist, someone that lives and breathes this world? Are you seeing it being heightened a lot more? Does it coincide with like crime?
I don't necessarily think heightened. I think it just is something that there is a direct correlation between whatever the coefficient is, we don't know, but there is a direct correlation. Now, do other forms of media have that too? 100%. I mean, when I was young, The Wire, just watching The Wire, had everybody thinking they were El Chapo. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's be honest. And then listening to music, as I say, we learned from people like Jay-Z and Nas, and when you get to my age, you still do. Do you know what I mean? When the way he's talking. So, do these kids listen and can be, I'd say, influenced by the things they hear? Most definitely. We're all human beings. That's what is going to happen. But in reality, the mass of people that actually listen to these artists are not in gangs or anywhere near any of that. You go to their shows and honestly, it's just a bunch of white kids from Middle England who are not doing anything. Do you know what I mean? So that's the reality of it. That is who the real audience is. There's not millions of gang members ready to stream these songs over and over. But does it have an effect? 100% it does.
My other question then is this, and again, I'm not asking you to name any names because it would be probably be quite wrong and actually dangerous for the individual, but there must be some artists out there that might have been a part of that life before, no longer, or never part of that life, but kind of acts like through their music they very much were. You know, obviously selling whatever, shooting whoever, you know, beating up whoever, banging whoever, you know, and you must look at it like it happens in the world of business or sales. Like some people on Instagram imitate that they've got this and they've got that and I've been here and I know them. I'm like, you're full of shit, mate. You are full of shit. You must, as being, you know, in the business that you're in, there must be a lot of fake type artists out there that put out fake narratives.
Yeah, of course there are, and I think that's when that kind of damage hurts more, because essentially it didn't even come from a real place. You've essentially got like an outsider then causing damage in places that they've never been, right? And it hurts less if an artist who's been through that is just telling their story, right? And then that so happens to have a negative effect. That's a bit more digestible, right? Yeah. So of course there are fakes. I think we live in a world now where, you know, back to the art thing at the beginning about the limited edition versus the original, right? Once you can't get the original and the limited edition is cheaper or more accessible or sometimes even more believable, then people will buy into that and be happy with that. Like, people literally lie on Instagram all day long and build businesses. I mean, most online businesses by these individuals, whether it's we do drop shipping, we do trading, we do this, it's just a lie. And everyone's cool with someone peddling a lie, it seems. Like, I think it's just where we are in society. And once we become okay with that, you know, not to get all weird, but you get into the AI stuff, it's like, would I watch a film with an AI version of my favorite actor? Would it be, how much of a difference does it make to me? Initially, it would be a bit weird. After a while, it becomes okay. I remember when I thought fake tits were weird, and now I love them. Do you know what I mean? Like, what can you? It's just where we are in society. I think we become desensitized to it because, like, I mean, not in a bad way. Look at like the hip hop community with 6ix9ine and stuff, and you know that was no snitching. I mean, half the people don't even know what snitching technically means. The people that are screaming it out, right? Because you've got people talking about, I've had conversations with people where I'm like, so if your kid got kidnapped, would you call the police? No, man, don't deal with police. It's like, what kind of nonsense is that?
Stupid.
Right? Cool. That's an extreme place to be. Then you've got this rapper who kind of faked his whole story, then snitches on these gangsters that he was in cohorts with, who's now being allowed to exist. First they tried to get rid, but it doesn't look like it's working, and he's probably going to exist in the hip-hop scene. And now, so we're just in a different place that just probably wouldn't have happened before, and now it can, because democratization, the powers that be control nothing. Like, you and your one voice of honor, that, once again, that little white kid from Middle England doesn't care. He doesn't even care if you've lived it or not. He just wants to know that it sounds good, and that's it.
Okay, so stepping back, quote unquote, retiring as an artist and being in the booth and rapping. I mean, look, your music was very good, and your freestyling was really, really good. I even was, I can't remember the one, pass, get it, the chance. Yeah, that, me and my former business partner, we used to listen to it all the time, and I started listening to it again ever since that, and it's just really, really good. Yeah. But like, it must be, I know maybe doing it didn't fill you with a lot of joy maybe towards the end, but there must be a slight drug affiliation to it, as in, you know, when you do it and then people start reacting online, the hits, and then when you walk down the street, like I just slightly did there, say back some of the lyrics that you've come up with on the spot or wrote down, that must be a really good feeling.
Yeah, definitely. It is.
And it's not like you're going to get the same from producing music? Or maybe you do.
From being behind the scenes, no, you don't get the same. But I think as you get older, you don't necessarily require
the same hit.
Yeah, that's it really. Do you know what I mean? Like when you're young, you care to have the craziest car, the craziest watch, the craziest everything, because you kind of need that attention for validation as a young man trying to make your way in the world and, you know, find your identity, I suppose. But as we get older, you know who you are and the things that make you who you are. So those small dopamine hits don't mean as much. Hence why older people don't necessarily indulge in social media as much as a younger generation who's pretty much grown up with these dopamine hits and needs them every day to survive. Like a girl will post the same mirror picture just on a different day on her story every day just so she can get that dopamine hit. I mean, men are doing it too, of course.
I mean, I definitely resonate with what you're saying, but there are definitely some exceptions to that rule. And for some reason, I started thinking about Floyd Mayweather. Right, this guy, 50-0, never touched the floor, never lost, never drew, beat a lot of very, very high competition with ease, made a shit ton of money, like over $1 billion. This man cannot step away from the limelight. He should have retired a long time. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I'm not saying he should have retired. I get why he's doing it now. I think keeping yourself fit, having a focus, making more money is great. But I think there's an addiction there of being the man, being relevant all the time.
Yeah.
He's one example, but there's going to be other people.
But the dopamine hit he's getting now is a bit different. He's like, beating a great fighter is one thing. Beating a YouTuber doesn't make you feel the same as that. So I don't think that's his motivation as much. I think it's just, you might as well. Do you know what I mean?
Easy money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so a bit relevant because, you know, people chant your name. You know?
And to be relevant, because relevance, like cultural currency is important in this day and age for everything you do.
Yeah.
Like that's the day and age we live in. Like, unfortunately, even if you are back office or whatever, you still need to be relevant within whatever space you operate in to progress. Like if you're a bloody tech guy, having some tech currency, cultural currency is important for you. It's going to get you more money in whatever job you do and so on and so forth. Yeah.
So being an artist, now working behind the scenes, I mean, look, there is a bit of a blueprint there with the Jay-Z's, P. Diddy's. You know, when I was younger, they were very cool. Today, where I'm older, they are still very cool. And but they're super rare. Like they a lot of these people that started in the same sort of time period as them have kind of phased out, or you don't know where they are now. So how do you go from an artist to a mega star as an artist, rapper, singer, whatever, but then pivoting into the business world of behind the scenes, going into all these different ventures, and then occasionally coming back, doing a tune with someone like a Drake, smashing that, and then venturing forward and becoming worth $1 billion, 2 million quid. I mean, it seems like two different worlds, but for somehow, some of the elite have made that transition like it's nothing.
I mean, to someone, you're talking about someone like Jay-Z, right? I mean, he told us what he was going to do a long time ago. So he always had the plan, and essentially he's always walked that line. He never got signed as an artist by another record label, so he made his own one and they signed himself, right? So he's always been both parties in the transaction, yeah? And then as you do that, you learn more, you see more, you find more opportunities, and more importantly than anything else is you have a great team to be able to take advantage of that, because it would be impossible to just do that as one person. Your brain wouldn't have the capacity to do all of that. So you need a great team first and foremost, and I think that's what Jay-Z has, is a great team that's as hungry as he is and will hunt and kill in the same way that he would.
Hearing the short snippets on social media, Instagram, and I know he's not on It's like everything about this guy is authentic, you know, and there's like the common modern way of becoming a success, but he has his own way that it doesn't matter what you tell him or what the world tells him, he will stick to the way he feels he needs to do it. And over time, he proves to everyone so what I'm trying to get to, like there was, you as an artist, it feels like there's certain tunes or certain like rhythms or certain lyrics that you could kind of say if you've got the skill, of course, and you can appeal to the masses and you could become successful within that moment. And it's a bit like fashion, right? You know, there's certain designs that are on trend right now and you could get a quick buck and make some money and go towards that. And I know there's been certain artists that have sort of gone in and out of that over time, but with Jay-Z, he's always said that he stays true to like how he believes that he needs to be expressing himself through his music, etc. And he hasn't, what's it called, the shiny coin syndrome, where you see something and you go towards it because that's going to make you the money immediately. He stays authentic to his mission.
Yeah, I mean, he has.
And that's discipline, right?
Yeah, but he's also had the moments where he saw the shiny coin. Like I think when Diddy and Mason were like in charge of rap at the time, Jay-Z had his moment where he tried to make songs like that. Then Jay-Z, even as a street rapper, has had very commercial moments. Do you know what I mean? He's just done them in his own way that's authentic to him. And I think that's what's most important, because it goes back to the understanding how you get your message across. Like there's one way when you tell us, cough up a lung, where you from, Marcy son, and then there's I'm from New York. They're both essentially the same song, but the message is transmitted in two very different ways. Yeah. And I think Jay-Z understands that. And I think younger artists today are starting to understand that more. American artists at the moment are suffering a bit with that, because they're not making the commercial songs, they're not making the club songs, they're making very street music. The female rappers are doing well because they're making these club bangers, radio music, etc., etc. But the males, not as much.
On that note, Jay-Z and Nas, who's the better rapper?
For me, I was a Jay-Z fan more than I was a Nas fan, but do I appreciate both of them? Of course. But Jay-Z's like, that's, you know, like sometimes we laugh and we say Jay-Z's my dad. Like that's just what it is. He was the guy that taught us a lot, and he's just it's Jay-Z. Like, look what he's done.
And the same question, Tupac or Biggie, who was the better one?
I can't. For me, I preferred listening to Biggie's music, but it's hard to describe why, right? Because basically, I think when it comes to the streets, let's say, or where we're from, there's different types of individuals that occupy these spaces. There's the people that are more, I'd say more ambitious, trying to get money, trying to elevate, like the finer things in life, and Then there was more street guys, like the grimy, who are more just, they were the greasier guys, let's say. And I think sometimes they lean towards different artists, something like, let's say, not Jadakiss and them, Styles and all these type of people. There's guys that would like love people like Styles, but I didn't like them because they weren't really talking to me. I preferred rap that was ambitious, like talking about the cars, the girls, the money, or let's try and get it. That kind of stuff is what I liked. So Biggie's who I gravitated towards, Jay-Z's who I gravitated towards. When you're telling me about pain and sadness and the block, and I don't really want to hear that, because I don't want to be, I'm not trying to dwell in all of that. I want to get out. So that's why I was listening to it when I was younger. Yeah.
Okay, so the final couple of things I want to ask you is this. stepping away from the mic, so to speak. You know, you've had a bit of an acting career. You're behind the scenes as a business person. Like, what do you get up to now, FrSH, to like make your money, to stimulate you, to put you on a mission? And approaching 40, like, what is the next 10 years, 20 years looking like for you?
I think that's probably the more complicated thing. I think I've never known what the next 20 or 10 would look like. Would someone, when I was 20 years old, told me I was going to own some pubs? No, wouldn't have thought that. Would someone have told me I'd be working behind the scenes in music? Yeah, I probably could imagine that. Would someone say that I wouldn't be making music? Probably couldn't imagine that. The next 20, I hope, are as progressive as the previous 20. And what I really hope, in all honesty, is that I don't get tired. And I say that because, in a very weird way, as I've got older, I felt like I got less hungry at different points in time. And that didn't really happen when I was young. There's a point where you start to feel a bit comfortable. I think there's this thing where you go, oh, I remember being, when I was like young, 17, all them times, and you're like, oh, in the future, I want to be able to buy a whole road. I want to go to work on a helicopter. There was things that you wished for yourself. And I think as you get older, sometimes reality starts kicking out, oh, maybe I might not own a £300 million yacht or a jet or whatever the case may be. So then you start to go, oh, you know what? I'm kind of happy here. So I find whenever I felt myself getting a bit happy here, I had to remotivate myself, give myself a kick up the arse and a desire and drive for more. So I just hope I can sustain that desire for more as I get older, for as much as I need to. I've realized now, I used to think, oh, I want all the money in the world. And it's now I'll sit there and I go, what's wrong with Bill Gates? Just go and chill. Just chill. What's your problem? I just don't even understand it at this point. Do you know what I mean? If someone for real, you gave me £1 billion today, honestly, I'm just going to chill. I don't need to turn it into 10, 20 bit, and I don't need to. I'm kind of just give it to me. I chill. So I don't know. I just want to maintain some of the energy and drive I had when I was younger, but not necessarily.
Yeah. Do you know what? Look, listen. I definitely want a load of money, but I don't want it to come quick and easy, because that reminds me of just like not earning it. Yeah. I feel like it's a scorecard, right? Yeah. If you give value to the world, to the workplace, to your business, to your peers, to your clients, customers, etc., then you should be rewarded. Mm-hmm. If you are, got morals and tactics, etc., you should be rewarded. And that scorecard, 100 million, billion, 10 billion, whatever it may be, is something that, of course, a lot of us want. But I do admire, and it actually made me start to think about it. Probably what is more important is that energy. The moment that I know some family members and I know some friends of friends that they've kind of given up on life. Mm-hmm. They're boozing all the time. They might be on the drugs. They're eating crap. They don't train anymore. Mm-hmm. They're kind of plodding along in life, and it's almost like you're alive but you're dead inside. And if I get to that moment, please shoot me in the head, because I've exited this life already. I'm just waiting for the moment that the big man upstairs pulls me under. I think having ambition, drive, and having that youth all the way up until the end is so key.
It is, and that's the thing. I think what it was for me, I just got to the point where I was like, well, I can't go broke now. Like, that's where I got to, and then it just made me chill a bit, feel a bit more relaxed, and then I realized I can go broke because I lost bare money quickly, and I was like,
what'd you lose it?
Just lost a lot quickly.
Not NFTs.
No. But I lost a lot quickly, and then I was like, it gave me the drive again. So I think you just kind of like, oh, you know, my daughter's happy, she's looked after, well, everyone's looked after, everyone's happy, I'm not going to be poor, I've pretty much sorted that part out. And then you just start to chill a bit because, I don't know, you start to look at life. It's this weird thing, I don't want the things that I necessarily wanted as much when I was young. I don't need 10 million watches and 10 million cars and I just don't need it anymore because it's not where I am in life. Do you know what I mean? Like, I remember when I'm young, I'm going shopping every week, new clothes every week, whatever's new. But now it's like, I don't care. Just don't care that much about it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you care about different things now. For me, I do, yeah. I care about different things. I still obviously like money, and unfortunately what's really sad is making money makes me happy, which is kind of fucked up sometimes because apart from your family and stuff like that, probably nothing makes me more happy, which is kind of stupid.
Yeah, I mean, without talking, we could talk about the conspiracy side of life, and I feel like where actually a lot of us are focused on sometimes the wrong things, like making money, and like, you know, if you strip everything back and just be dedicated in life, you know, like just being a great human and being healthy and helping everybody else, you will probably live longer, you'll probably have better relationships, but for some reason the ecosystem that we live in kind of drives a lot of people back to, well, let's focus on this money thing, which is great, it's very, very good, because without it you can't help family members or you can't do much. But it feels like it's a bit of a shiny coin syndrome thing again, and it's taking our eye off a lot of important things.
100%. Money's good, but it's bad, but it's necessary.
Yeah.
You know, no one's there. It's unfortunate sometimes when I look at the world, and I think even now when I think about the future and what's going to happen with like technology and the amount of people that are going to be out of work and disaffected, in the end, I don't even know because I don't know, man. I think, do you know what? You have to get money. The real reason, like, I feel like you have to get money is no one gives a fuck about you in the real world apart from like your family, really and truly. So if you're fucked, you're just fucked. Like, we're lucky we have some sort of social welfare system here in the UK. But in general, if you're fucked, you're fucked. And I don't want to be fucked. That's why, I like making money and I have to make money. And life's more fun when I make money. But the sad part is when I don't make money or something, that can piss me off. Yeah. And that's not good.
It's, I know it's a little bit shallow, but it's the way I interpret it. Like going back to what we said earlier about, you know, making money is like a scorecard, right? And if you're worth 10 million, 20 million, 100 million, billion, regardless what you do, it could be something really good, it could be actually something not so good, but when this other individual meets you for the first time and they've heard that you're worth this amount of money, you automatically assume that you must be very good at something, and therefore the status of you goes up. It's a bit like someone who's in good nick, right? They've got a six-pack, massive arms, you know, big pecs and stuff. The status goes up because it's like this discipline thing. And also with money, if you like kind of reinterpret the kind of message, the whole world's like a theme park, right? And there are hundreds of different rides that you can go on, which all represent family experiences, spiritual experiences, religious experiences, all kinds of different experiences. But the only way you get to go on these rides is with tokens. Yeah, and the more tokens you have, the more freedom you have around the park.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't have any tokens, you may never, ever experience certain rides or certain scenarios in this theme park, and that is the brutal truth of it. You need the money in order to experience it.
But I think we also have to accept there are some of those rides that don't require tokens.
Exactly.
Yeah, there are some, and they're probably the best rides to be on. Unfortunately, I just feel like I'm not necessarily that way inclined. I don't know why. I wish I was. I wish I was like a monk. But I'm not. And then also at the same time, I realized that to make all the billions I thought I wanted, which I still want, of course, God give me the money. I just think when I look at how they're all made, I think maybe I'm too nice to make that amount of money, because you have to have some sort of reckless abandonment for some of your morality to actually get to that space in reality. Like, it's just a fact. Even when you're doing a good thing, sometimes it seems like, but it comes at a cost. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I could bear that human cost. Do you know what I mean? It's like, even though, like, I don't want to diss in the fast food chain, or even me, I own a pub. I'm selling alcohol to people. Alcohol's fun, but we know it's not good for you.
Mate, it's like I have these conversations with my dad all the time. Like, I say, like, there's certain things, Dad, like white refined sugar, right?
Yeah.
In cans of Coke, or alcohol, or cigarettes and stuff like that. Now, they are culturally acceptable and they are legal, from the eyes of other human beings who dictate these laws and these regulations, because ultimately behind the scenes, probably the same people profit from this, so they're going to allow it to happen. But that we know all of those things I've just labelled are huge factors that kill people prematurely and give young people and older people massive problems later on. But yet, if you saw a young kid drinking a can of Coke, knowing it's got loads of grams of sugar in there, like if you said to we've got a kid in here, right, who was 10 years of age, and I lined up all the cubes of sugar and say, eat that right now. No, I'm not going to eat that. Okay, forget that. Drink that can of Coke. It's got the same amount in, but because it's been packaged up differently and it might taste a little bit differently, they're happy to do it. And the world would not bat an eyelid. They'd be like, that's normal. That's normal. But it's not normal, is it? It's killing you.
Of course, and this is what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, even if a man sat here and said, I import and export sugar, and I've made 500 million, you're like, oh, you're a G. Then a man tells you he's made 500 million selling crack and he's a bad person. Really, it's just two different white products. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. That's why sometimes I'm like, don't get me wrong, I could sell sugar, sugar's cool. But there's certain things I'm like, people really make money by just not giving a fuck about anybody else. It seems like you kind of have to do it that way, or you just kind of turn a blind eye to the economic cost of what you're actually doing, and not just economic cost, the social cost and so on and so forth. Because that's where we are. That's the
it
world.
Is a mad thing. I mean, we could talk about the big farmers. We could talk about we could talk about the fast foods. We could talk about the money made off of war.
The munitions thing is crazy.
Like there's loads of different elements that, again, we just regard as normal, and we see as culturally acceptable, or it's just a cycle that the economy will go through. But why do these cycles of things happen? Well, a lot of the time behind the scenes, they have to make a cycle like a recession, because there are going to be people that profit from it, and there are going to be a lot of people that don't profit from it and actually go skint and broke. And again, it's a bit of a rabbit hole conversation, because it could lead on to multiple different areas. But yeah, I mean, look, being happy here and now, and feeling good is probably the key to life.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, pushing on is also very, very good. This leads me on to my last and final question, and you may or may not have heard of this, but I've got my own catchphrase.
Yeah.
and it goes like this: be happy, never content. Now I've got my own interpretation of what that means. So I'm going to ask G-Fresh, what does be happy, never content mean to you?
I think it means to me that you should always be grateful for what you have, but not be afraid to desire more, is how I would understand it. And I think that's where I am. That's what I like to think, is I thank God every day, like, thank you, do you know what I mean? And I do, but I do want more. I do want more.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I think that's what it means for me, yeah. Be happy with the things you have, but yeah, just not be afraid to want more.
I really, really appreciate this episode, mate. When in the future, when you've become a billionaire, we'll do a part 2. But yeah, very special moment for me, mate, because I've been following you and a few other artists that I've admired your work, admired what you've contributed towards your own genre and your own profession, and now getting to meet you and getting to talk to you like this is a really good thing, mate. So
thank you.
I really appreciate it. So be happy, never content. Make sure you're subscribing, and thank you very much for listening.
Yeah,
cheers.
Thank you, bro.
Nice one, mate. Guys, before we end this episode, I have to give one more mention to this week's sponsors, iSecure Vehicles. Now, I've already mentioned their products. They are the very best in what they do. They have a wide range of different services and different systems to protect your asset and your vehicle. Head over to their website to find out a bit more. Thanks for watching this week's episode. There's going to be some more exciting guests, some big names, and some really, really juicy episodes.